I mean, here's a guy who was so faithful to his wife, he lied about her so that, he wouldn't die. Yeah. She's not my wife. She's just my sister, which puts her in huge trouble. And God has to rescue her, Sarah, and Abraham out of his line. Now, I don't want to minimize the man. He did grow in faith all through his life. Perfect example of the way we are. But the promises of God to Abraham, and because of all of the ink that he gets in the Old Testament, which is a huge amount of time spent explaining how God was working in his life, reminds us that God won't back out on his promises no matter how long it takes, no matter what he has to take us through. So what has this got to do with our jobs, our mortgage, our marriage? Only this: a flawed man who failed grew in faith as he continued to walk with God. God rewarded Abraham's faith. God gave him the faith, and he rewarded his faith by delivering on the promises that he gave to Abraham. And his promise to Abraham has reached down to us today, hasn't it? His promise was to Abraham and his line, which ended in Jesus, and the faithful preaching of Jesus is what brought us here. You think God keeps his promises? Through 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years of time, he certainly has proven that. So this transforms our tendency to be impatient and to help God along. I think that's one of the biggest lessons out of Abraham's life. Don't try to help God. You'll get an Ishmael for your trouble. Number 5, God uses weak and flawed people who are haunted by failure. Verse 10 brings us to Moses. Doesn't name Moses, but to the time when Moses led the people of God out of Egypt. And so here, Ezra goes from one flawed leader to a second flawed leader, and he wants us to consider Moses. Moses, a murderer. He's on the run. He's in the wilderness for 40 years. Moses is proof that he does not revoke his plans for his people. Moses, the plans God had for Moses were long before Moses was even born, and even though Moses was reckless and impatient, he was not easily persuaded. Look at how he got so angry. Look at the ways